There I am live. Okay, I'm going to try this live stream for the third time today. Tried this earlier as soon as I got the news of this article that came out while I was driving, and my phone overheated, even though the air conditioner was on full blast in the truck, and I could not restart that live stream like I normally can. Anyway, I've had some technical difficulties doing this, so I'm back at my house. There should be no issues now. Um, okay, so if you are new to following my YouTube channel, or if you are new to my Twitter, and you have not heard me speak about gang stalking, organized stalking and harassment, weaponized systems used against our citizens in the United States, that's basically what I've been documenting and reporting for the last 3 years. Started documenting in November of 2017. I realized in May of 2017 that I was a targeted individual, and there were events that were occurring in my life that were not organic. Uh, I, it was like I was living in the Truman Show. There's people following me through town, people showing up to my house at all times of the day, all times of night, endless phone calls from numbers that would hang up, or just uh, from recorded lines that basically would coincide with events that I had going on in my life. Um, Strangers in public harassing me, repeating my personal conversations in stores, staged accidents, poisoning. It goes on and on and on. Just go to my, if you want to learn the whole story, what I've talked about, go to my website, barredin.us. It's barredin.us, and that's where I started documenting. So it's been almost 3 years now, and I've been waiting for some kind of proof to show. There's been some proof, other than my own documentation, other targeted individuals' documentation explaining the same scenarios, different uh, different genders, different ethnicities, different religions, different states around the United States, and even in other countries, explaining the exact same type of occurrences over and over, which, these things are happening all over. Most of it is from the United States. I hear it happening in other countries as well. So as far as the United States goes here, let me give the shortest version that I can for the foundation of these programs that I have been subjected to and have been documenting and reporting on, using my own life, what I experience on a daily basis as the documentation. Um, okay, so 9/11 occurred. After 9/11, the Patriot Act was enacted, which took away constitutional rights of United States citizens. Mass data collection on all citizens started occurring. Nothing was private anymore. Our emails, our phone calls, our internet searches, nothing. Okay, so the Department of Homeland Security was created. And when the Department of Homeland Security was created, a former East German secret police, Stasi, they call them, an officer was consulted when creating the Department of Homeland Security. There was also another guy from the Soviet Union, and I can never remember his name nor pronounce it. But those people were consulted when they created the Department of Homeland Security for the United States. So now, in 2012, Obama revised the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which was a law stating that propaganda could not be used against American citizens. And he revised that to remove that law, basically. So propaganda could be used against American citizens again. And you see that propaganda in the fake news, you see it in newspaper articles, magazines, commercials, in our movies, all kinds of different psychological manipulation. And that propaganda is not only being used in photo, video, broadcast, journalism, multimedia applications, but actually on our streets, in our real lives here in the United States. Now, the people that carry out this propaganda in real life against targeted individuals and on a mass scale, the FFs, I'm not supposed to say that word apparently on YouTube, maybe that's what shut me down earlier, but I think a lot of you know what an FF is now. It's similar to a hoax, only in an FF, there are actual casualties, injuries, stuff like that. So, okay, so these acts started being carried out by people that are live action role players, LARPs, and they're given a script, basically a role to play, and they will go out and carry out that role, like you've seen at some of these mass incidents on school campuses, at malls, different things like that. So these same type of people are the ones that we refer to as gangstalkers that go out and they carry out what we call street theater skits around targeted individuals to keep that targeted individual basically in a, you could say, a dream state. So nothing in your life basically is organic or realistic. You are, after all of that data is stolen from you, all of your communications, your private conversations in your home, like I said, nothing is private, and they'll use all of that information and create these street theater skit scenarios to put you into a state of panic and fear and control you. You're easily controlled if you are in a state of panic and fear. Easier to control. Let's see here. Okay, I need to backtrack a little bit. So I've talked about the Patriot Act, the Department of Homeland Security. Now, after the Department of Homeland Security was created, they created what are called fusion centers. Fusion centers are federally funded, state-operated, privately owned data dissemination centers. And what they do is they take all of your personal data that's when you're a targeted individual, you're surveilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nothing you do or say is private. They take all of that information and they use all of that information to create these non-organic scenarios that are basically a narrative of your own life. And it sounds ridiculous to somebody that wouldn't think to do something like this, that hasn't gone through this, experienced it personally. It should sound ridiculous to you because you should think to yourself, who would do that? Why would they take the time and effort? So here's a quick answer why they would take the time and effort. When there is a cause, when there is a need for federal funding, when an organization can show a need for federal funding, they'll get more and more of that federal funding. New jobs will be created, new facilities, new vehicles, new whatever. So if they can keep these programs going, they will continue having their job, job security, and two, grow these compartmentalized groups that run from these fusion centers. So now the fusion centers, I said, disseminate information, and who they are disseminating that information to are compartmentalized, organized groups, such as FBI InfraGard, Citizen Corps, I believe maybe FBI SSG, which is Secret Surveillance Group. Uh, Within Infragard, there are 400 corporations that are Fortune 500 corporations that take part in a lot of this organized stalking and harassment, street theater events, uh, surveillance that takes place towards in the life of a targeted individual. Um, we had done some research and looked up some of those companies, all of the companies actually, the corporations that partner with Infragard, and realized that George Soros owns large portions of stock in 47 of those companies that partner with Infragard. Who also, George Soros, if you don't know this already, also funds Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which Black Lives Matter is taking advantage of black people and not putting that money into black communities, but giving that money to Democratic politicians through a non-profit organization called Act Blue. So Act Blue manages the money for Black Lives Matter, and it goes to these politicians, billions of dollars. So we see the social engineering that's taking place with the Antifa, the looting, the riots, the mobbing, the psychological torture that they're carrying out. Same thing with BLM. We see the type of things that they're doing. So the same, I don't want to say this is just George Soros, because it's got to be a group of people. George Soros is funded by, other people higher up than him. He's got a lot of his own money, a lot of it, and has spent tons of money doing this kind of thing. So, like I said, he funds Antifa and Black Lives Matter, but he also paid Obama around $30 million in a couple different increments right before that Smith-Mundt Act was changed and the watch listing guidance in 2013 was updated. So, as we've been told by former Department of Homeland Security officer and investigator Philip Haney, Department of Homeland Security was taking actual terrorists off of terrorist watch lists, and not only taking them off of terrorist watch lists, but putting them into positions of influence, like security positions, three-letter agencies like Department of Homeland Security, possibly FBI, maybe CIA. So they were taken off, put in these positions of influence, and somebody had to fill those spots. So what's the easiest way for them to fill those vacancies on the terrorist watch list? Make it really easy for somebody to report a, quote, terrorist through Department of Homeland Security. It takes two people to call and identify a, quote, terrorist, and then they put that person through the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, which is a secret court. There is no due process, and they have rubber stamped thousands of people every single year to keep this scam watch list growing. We keep hearing more and more about the FISA court. I pay attention to it almost every single day of my life. I've been working on this diligently for 3 years now, so I don't really miss much as far as the news on the FISA court and these type of operations. So, okay, I probably missed a few things, but I want to read to you this article. I'm just going to read the whole article. Some people won't read articles, but what I just explained, if it sounds nuts, and it should to some of you who don't know anything about this, who've never heard anything about this, that's understandable. That's okay. You should be questioning this. You should not just listen to some guy on YouTube say a bunch of stuff and then just take it for what it, believe it, basically. You should do your own research, and you should look into these things that I'm talking about. And at the same time, listen to this article that came out today, August 14th, 2020. So this is on technocracy.news, technocracy.news. All right, let's see, can you see this here? Fusion centers. All right. See the guy in the guys looking at the multiple monitors, surveilling. All right, here I'll lean back and relax here and read this article. First thing it says on here is please share this story. Please share this story. Go to my Twitter at Michael Barden8, MichaelBarden number 8. Go to my Twitter. This article is linked on my Twitter account. And I'd really like for you all to share this. I would appreciate it. Okay, so the National Network of Local Fusion Centers was created as a data gathering network to normalize state and local data to federal databases. Instead of fighting terrorism, they have become a spy network on ordinary citizens. Like me. Like I've been documenting and reporting for 3 years, and people will gaslight and say, well, you're crazy. Who would follow you? Who would surveil you? Here you go. Okay. What the public learned about fusion centers since the recent BlueLeaks hack was released over a month ago, not a lot. Wait, what the public learned? Okay. What has the public learned about fusion centers since the recent BlueLeaks hack was released over a month ago? Not a lot. The feds have done a great job of keeping the public from finding out what DHS fusion intelligence centers are really doing. In a country founded on freedom, we find federal and local law enforcement scrambling to keep the true function of fusion centers hidden from the public. By piecing together articles from Maine and Texas newspapers, a disturbing picture begins to unfold of warrantless surveillance of Americans. So that goes to the FISA court, which I've talked about. It's warrantless. There's been no due process. The person has been accused of a crime that they cannot even respond to because they don't know that they were put through the FISA court and targeted. So they just, whatever they say about that person, it's just they put into the data banks and they go along with that. The first proof that fusion centers were being used to spy on everyday citizens and activists can be found in a Maine Press Herald article from mid-July. A cache of internal police documents stolen from a secretive Maine State Police Intelligence Unit has provided the first substantial glimpse into how it collects and shares information about crime suspects and political activists, and, in rare cases, keeps tabs on domestic extremists, gang members, and anti-government groups. So there's most likely some actual bad guys on this list, but it doesn't seem to be that way because the way that our government has become so corrupt over the years that it seems like the worse person you are, the higher you get promoted. The easier you are to pay off, the more of a psychopath you are. They seem to like those type of people and want to insert those type of people into positions of influence, so they'll just carry out any type of operation that they're told to without any kind of compassion or regard for the law. So it'd be interesting to see how many actual terrorists and or dangerous people are still on these watch lists. Well, let me rewind a second. Recently, and it almost makes me think that it's a possibility why this information is just now coming out after thousands and thousands and thousands of people reporting these incidents. It seems very possible that in the fight against the deep state, there are the white hats and the black hats, the people that want to use the government organizations for good to help the people, and then there are the black hats that have been using it for control, power, and manipulation for a long time. So there seems to be an internal struggle in a lot of these different agencies within Department of Justice, under Department of Justice, the FBI. Not too sure about the CIA,
but there seems to be an internal struggle, and it seems to be the same way in law enforcement, in the military. They're fighting it out back and forth behind the scenes. So DHS possibly is being used to actually go after terrorists, domestic terrorists. We saw them arresting Antifa members in Portland, Oregon recently. And as soon as that started happening, all of these same people that were complicit in using DHS to target patriots, nationalists, whistleblowers, investigative journalists, good people, hadn't said a word about this since it started. But as soon as they started arresting Antifa and BLM and going after some other terrorist type people, all of a sudden, oh, now it's a big deal. This is secret police are bad, blah, blah, blah. So that tells me that something has changed, and it might be the reason why some of this information is coming out. So it's going to be a transition to where hopefully people like me are taken off of these lists, and they as unconstitutional as unconstitutional and illegal as this is, it's being used against good people for a long time, and it's almost like they're going to have to use these same systems to kind of boomerang that and use it on the people that created it to take them down. Okay, so that being said, I'm just going to finish reading this. The article goes into greater detail describing how local police use fusion centers to track down low-level offenders and ID people from social media or video footage. Police agencies commonly contact the main center with requests for help identifying a person depicted in a photo, sometimes captured from a surveillance camera. Other pictures are taken directly by law enforcement or appear to be pulled from Facebook or other social media sites. Maine police even went so far as to ask the Fusion Center to identify a passenger in a car who refused to identify himself and did not consent to having his photograph taken or fingerprints scanned. Well, that's interesting. An interesting statement, because if you're in public, you don't have to consent to having your photograph taken. Taking a photograph of somebody in public is perfectly legal as long as it's not in a organized fashion to stalk and harass that person. By an organized group, somebody giving a person an order to go take a photo of somebody and report back to them with that photo. That's illegal. That's Federal Code USC 18 section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. Also 2261, which is stalking. And it's a violation of the Constitution to your Fourth Amendment rights, because they're gathering this information illegally to deprive you of your rights to travel freely without being stalked and harassed. Okay, so another article in the Maine Press Herald, which predate Blue Leaks, revealed that fusion centers refuse to acknowledge that they are secretly scanning everyone's faces and spying on their cell phones. That again, that statement right there kind of makes me think that they are using it to scan for, that DHS and some of these systems are possibly being switched to go after some of the people that are actually complicit in some of these programs to begin with, which is, I think, part of the reason why you see so many people wearing masks. They're trying to get by the facial recognition. All right. Despite evidence that the Maine State Police has worked for years with federal agencies to develop its use of digital surveillance technology, the agency now uses that law to refer to answer any questions about such efforts or even acknowledge that they exist. A third Maine Press Herald article revealed that fusion centers are secretly collecting a massive database of license plate numbers, the names and addresses of legal gun owners, and monitoring political activist groups and collecting members' names and addresses. Um, hmm. Again, some of these groups that are out doing what they're doing are not political activists. Some of them are paid mobs. Get a little debit card that gets recharged every week or so. They're given gift cards. Uh, Things are paid for them. New roof, pool, uh, different things like that. Things that don't really show a paper trail. You don't need an ID or anything to use a gift card. Uh, Fusion Centers created a national citizen spy program. The Austin Chronicle revealed that fusion centers have used secret informants to create a national suspicious activity network. In early June, an intelligence center operated by the Austin Police Department was hacked, along with many others like it across the country. Known as Blue Leaks, the collection of leaked documents from the hack contains over 10 gigs of material taken from the Austin Center. They reveal a secret citizen spying program that's active in the Austin area and across the country. The article reveals how fusion centers have created a vast network of secret threat liaison officers. These are gang stalkers. If they're the ones that are taking part in the live action role playing, the street theater skits, repeating your conversations you just had in your house while you're at the store, traffic mobbing, trying to get people into accidents, setting them up to stage accidents. Goes on and on and on. Go back and listen to my channel. Secret citizen spies, or TLOs, could be someone you least expect. TLOs could be anyone: private security officers with local hotels, malls, large venues, and local semiconductor companies. Government employees in education, code enforcement, and public works also contribute to ARIC and FOUO TLOs. According to the article, TLOs could be teachers, trash collectors, ministers, priests, rabbis, or even counselors. So if you go back a few months, 6 months ago or so, I took a video of a high school teacher at my daughter's high school that her and her brother were waiting for me in the parking lot at the post office, were blocking me so I couldn't park in a parking space. The guy came and got behind my truck and he got in my face. I was telling him to leave me alone. He was weirding me out. Went into the post office. They sat there and waited for me to come out. When I tried to get in my truck, they blocked me from getting in my truck. And I was filming them, and then the teacher came out with her phone. It's the Spanish teacher at La Jolla High School, right here in my neighborhood in Avondale, Arizona. Teacher came around the corner with her phone and just started screaming at me. Called me a white piece of shit. They told me I was a weirdo for filming them. Well, they were filming me at the same time. Well, they were the ones that were waiting for me in a parking lot just to try to get me in an altercation. Well, there just happened to be 2 police cruisers right at the corner, just in case I were to lose my temper and punch somebody. They'd be there real quick to arrest me. That's how these street theater skits work. They want to trigger, they want to provoke the targeted individual into reacting, and as soon as you react, they're there to claim victim, play victim, and lock you up. All right, so basically, Department of Homeland Security has succeeded in creating a network of secret government spies masquerading as everyday people. And they always use plausible deniability. Whenever they're gang stalking you, they've always got plan B. They've got an excuse or a reason for what they're doing. Oh, I was just here waiting to buy tools from this person. You just happen to be here, and they've always got plausible deniability. It's how this program operates. All right, a TLO job is to report people for doing mundane things like asking questions, taking pictures or being observant of one's surroundings. Hello. TLOs are also reporting people for suspicious social media posts, whatever that means. According to one FOUO TLO's report, an individual was seen taking photos of Zach Scott's Topfer Theater on September 22nd, 2016. The report includes 5 different pictures of a young person using a camera on a tripod to photograph the theater from across the street. Okay, that person very possibly in a high school or college photography class, might be a professional photographer, artistic photographer, landscape, and you put your camera on a tripod to take a picture of a theater because it has big beautiful lights. It might have an Art Deco theme, and that's what you want to use for your art project, or maybe for your art gallery display. And just by doing that, these people will report you for suspicious activity. To make it easier to report Americans for doing mundane things, fusion centers have provided TLOs with a checklist. The leaked documents include submission forms TLOs use to make the reports. At the top of the forms are boxes to check indicating the type of activity being reported. These include the aforementioned school threat, but also eliciting information, observation, surveillance, and suspicious/odd Facebook post. That's all subjective. That could just be you saying, I think Obama's a criminal. I think he tried to destroy our company, our country. And that person might love Obama. They might still be brainwashed enough to, or complicit enough to still love Obama and think he was the greatest person ever. And they didn't like that you called Obama a terrorist. They could call that suspicious activity. The TLO report spreadsheet contains 128 reports of school threats, but the category most reported by far was expressed or implied threat, with more than 1,000 entries. To say that this is reminiscent of China, the USSR, or East Germany, just like I was talking about, the Stasi, who were ended, and there are still files on each of the government dissidents or people that just wanted to leave Germany. They all had a personal file, all of the slander, the stalking, the harassment, the surveillance, everything that happened. They have a personal file in Germany in a museum that you can go right now and go see those. Well, you can request the file if it's your own file. Look up Stasi survivors on YouTube, STASI. Was just ended in the 90s. They interview the Stasi survivors. They explain exactly what I've explained with less technology, a little bit different operations, but very, very similar to what targeted individuals have explained for years now. Okay, I'm sorry. Reminiscent of China, the USSR, or East Germany is an understatement, and that it is an understatement. What they do with the technology, this is run on artificial intelligence, algorithms. There's some other technology involved, but I'm not even going to cover that in this. That has to do with torture, personal torture of the targeted individual. That has to do with gaslighting them personally, sleep deprivation, etc., just to make this whole experience that much worse. As the Chronicle warned, worrisome examples of suspicious activity have led to increased scrutiny, which means the feds and local police could be secretly monitoring innocent Americans without any public scrutiny. If you thought DHS's "if you see something, say something" was a failure, guess again. DHS has managed to justify creating 78 fusion centers. Jeez, that's more than one per state. 78 fusion centers whose sole purpose, it seems, is to spy on innocent American Americans and track their daily movements. Again, if you're new to this and you're listening to this going, oh my gosh, so what do they do when they do this to these people? Go back and start on my YouTube channel in November of 2017. Or go to my website, bardin.us, BARREDIN.us. Just look at the videos, just watch the videos on the main page of my website. Get through those, go to my YouTube channel. If you really want to research this and dig on this and see what the standard operating procedures, the harassment techniques, tactics that are used on a targeted individual, I've done my due diligence to document this. The Air Force literally trained me how to do this. I trained at the Defense Information School at Fort Meade, Maryland, DINFOS, right across the street from the largest NSA facility in the United States, where some of this happened to me on that base in Maryland. But they taught me how to document what's going on, put that information together, and then report it to whoever needs to understand that information. Okay, so that was the end of the article. Again, that's on technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Came out today, August 14th. Let me double check. Yep, right here, August 14th, 2020. Again, you can find this on my Twitter, unless you're seeing this video from me posting it on Twitter. But just check my last tweet, last couple tweets. It's in here. Read this for yourself. Share this with other people. This is we've been gaslit for years. People have been literally put in mental institutions just for reporting this. And they're saying, oh, this person's delusional and schizophrenic. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's following them. Nobody's surveilling them, recording their calls. Nobody's doing any of this stuff. Well, here you go. Here you go. Proof about what I've been talking about for damn near 3 years now. That I've endured for 3 years. And don't be fooled for 1 second that this is just surveillance. This is social engineering. This is no-touch torture. This is organized stalking and harassment. This is the Stasi East German police on steroids. This was done to over 100,000 veterans. 140,000 veterans have committed suicide since the Patriot Act was enacted. Men and women volunteer into a job. They take a job and volunteer to serve in the United States military, Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Coast Guard. Get deployed. They go into theater. They go get shot at. They get blown up. They lose limbs. Their friends die right in front of them. They are sent away from their family for years at a time. And they do that for your safety and security and for your freedom. That's what they're told. Some of them are lied to. Some of them, when they get to these deployment locations and they realize, this isn't what they told us we were going to do, they realize they're guarding an opium field. Field full of opium, poppies, opium plants, whatever you call them. And then all of a sudden they realize, why are we guarding that? Why are we guarding oil rigs? Why did I come home and I was guarding these opium fields and now there's an opioid epidemic in my country? And they start thinking, they start doing some research. They're tough, resilient people. People that other people would listen to because they're a veteran, they've served in a war. Those type of people, because of their situation, were put on these no-touch torture lists. And after they've gone through bombs and guns, IEDs blowing up their vehicle, going through all that hell and coming back with PTSD, instead of going through proper counseling, they're put into these no-touch torture programs, and somebody is playing war sounds while they're trying to sleep. More guns and bombs going off. More noise, more nonsense. And they can't, they don't want to live through that anymore. And they kill themselves. 140,000 veterans have 140,000 veterans have died since the Patriot Act. Probably more. 20 something a day. And it's partially because of these fucking programs. I'm going to end on that.